There's a strange kind of silence that follows life's loudest moments. The end of a long day, a heavy conversation, a victory that didn't feel like one, or a failure that felt oddly freeing. In those quiet spaces, we start asking harder questions. Is this it? Why does success still feel hollow? Why do small things throw me off balance? That's not weakness. That's awareness knocking. There's a philosophy, old, quiet, almost invisible, that answers these questions without ever shouting. Not a trend, not a hack, not something that promises overnight change, just something that has outlived empires. Marcus Aurelius lived it, an emperor, a warrior, but also, and more importantly, a man trying to hold on to himself while holding the weight of the world. He didn't leave behind strategies. He left behind habits. 10, to be exact. Or at least 10 we can still feel in his writings. Simple, repeatable, real. These weren't rituals done in candlelight. They were practiced on battlefields, in disease, in grief, in doubt, in the quiet moments before sleep. And they weren't about becoming perfect. They were about becoming whole. Today, I want to take you through those habits, not as a list, not as advice, but as reminders of who you already are, beneath the noise, beyond the ego, outside the scroll. This isn't a self-help speech. It's a mirror. Hold it steady. You might see something you've been too busy to notice, and it might change the way you live your next 24 hours. You don't need to be a philosopher. You don't need to be an emperor. You just need to be willing. Willing to look inwards when it's easier to look away. Willing to pause when life keeps shouting go. Marcus didn't wait until things calmed down to get clear. He found clarity in the middle of the storm, and his habits can help you do the same. So, here we go. 10 habits, rooted in ancient wisdom, sharpened by hardship, and still, somehow, more relevant today than ever. You don't need to adopt them all at once, but you might just find yourself hearing his voice the next time you're about to lose your temper, or scroll endlessly, or chase something that doesn't feed your soul. Let's begin. You won't remember most of your days, and that's not a failure. It's just how the mind works. But strangely, the way you live your days shapes who you become. Not the loud days, the quiet ones, the ones where nothing special happened, except for the decisions you made when nobody was watching. Will I respond with anger, or stay quiet for 2 more breaths? Will I grab my phone, or keep my attention on the person in front of me? Will I say later again, or just get up and start? These aren't life-changing moments in the cinematic sense. They don't come with music or applause. They're more like the threads in a piece of cloth. One thread feels like nothing. But thousands of threads? That's your character. Marcus understood that. He didn't see excellence as something handed down by the gods. He saw it as a result of choices, repeated, refined, quietly made. And that's where Stoicism gets real. Not in theory, not in books, but in the way you behave when the world isn't looking. What if you treated every small choice like a brick in the foundation of your life? Wouldn't you be a little more careful where you set them down? It's not about perfection. You're gonna snap sometimes. You'll waste time. You'll get lazy. But Stoicism isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware. Aware of what you're doing, and aware that you can choose again, moment by moment. Every time you resist a distraction, every time you choose patience over ego, every time you lean into action instead of comfort, you are quietly becoming someone stronger. You won't feel it right away, but one day, something heavy will fall on you. And you'll notice you're holding up just a little better than before. That's not luck. That's who you've been becoming. One small decision at a time. So tomorrow, when nothing big happens, pay attention. That's the moment you're becoming who you are. Most people think of reflection as rewinding the day, replaying conversations, judging actions. Sometimes that helps. But Stoic reflection goes deeper. It's not just about what happened. It's about why. Why did I speak that way? Why did that moment make me feel small or angry or proud? And what does that tell me about me? This kind of reflection isn't easy. You're not just facing your day, you're facing yourself. And honestly, that's the part we avoid the most. It's easier to scroll, to fill the silence with noise. But silence doesn't hurt us, it reveals us. Marcus Aurelius used to ask himself, did I live today according to my values? Not just goals, values, patience, courage, humility, kindness. Did I practice them, or just talk about them? That question doesn't need a perfect answer. It just needs your honesty. Reflection, done right, is not self-criticism. It's self-connection. It's how you learn your patterns before they become regrets. It's how you spot the moments you're proud of before you forget them. It's how you gently course correct without waiting for a crash. You don't need a journal. You don't need incense. You just need 5 honest minutes with no one else in the room. Maybe it's sitting at the edge of your bed. Maybe it's looking in the mirror. Maybe it's one question whispered to yourself. Was I who I want to be today? Some days, the answer is no. That's okay. Because the next question matters even more. How can I try again tomorrow? Over time, reflection becomes more than a habit. It becomes a guide, a quiet voice that helps you see when you're drifting, and gently reminds you to return. The goal isn't perfection. It's progress, not faster but deeper, not louder but truer. The world tells you to go, go, go. Reflection teaches you to pause, so you don't wake up months later wondering where you went. So tonight, don't end your day with a screen. End it with yourself. That's where real clarity begins. You know that flash of heat in your chest? When someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time? That tightening in your jaw? That urge to fire back? It's primal. It's automatic. It feels justified. But Stoicism invites something harder, something quieter. A pause. Not to suppress the feeling, but to meet it. To give it just enough space so you can respond, not react. The world we live in celebrates speed. Say something, prove something, win the moment. But in that rush, we often lose something more valuable. Our peace, our clarity, our self-control. Marcus Aurelius didn't avoid strong emotions. He just refused to be ruled by them. He knew that anger, left unchecked, always takes more than it gives. And it's not just about big conflicts. It's the little ones that shape you. The email that makes your pulse spike. The traffic jam that steals your patience. The way your partner says something, and it lands just wrong. In those moments, the easy thing is to let go of yourself. The harder thing is to hold on to your center. It doesn't mean you become passive. It means you act from principle, not impulse. You speak when it matters, not just because it's loud inside your head. You wait a beat. You breathe. And in that space, you find power. Because here's the truth. Anyone can yell. Anyone can lash out. But very few can stay grounded when the ground is shaking. That's strength. Not the kind that flexes, the kind that lasts, the kind that people feel. even when you say nothing. Imagine this. Every time you pause instead of explode, you're building a kind of armor from the inside out. Not to block the world, but to hold yourself steady within it. You won't always get it right. Sometimes you'll react. That's okay. Just don't let one moment define the rest of your day. The Stoic path isn't about silence. It's about deliberate sound. Words that come from clarity, not chaos. Actions that come from choice, not reflex. Next time your chest tightens, let that be your reminder. You don't have to win the moment. You just have to own it. People will test you. They'll misunderstand you, talk over you, disappoint you. Some will push your patience without even knowing they're doing it, and some will do it on purpose. You'll want to react, to prove something, to explain yourself, or maybe just shut them out. But here's what Marcus Aurelius came to understand, that the world is full of people on their own journeys. And those journeys, messy, unpredictable, just like yours. So instead of resisting people, you start accepting them, not approving, not condoning, just recognizing they are who they are. You don't control them. You never did. But you can control you. And that changes everything. The moment you stop expecting people to be who you want them to be, you free yourself. No more draining energy trying to fix them. No more resenting them for not matching your story. You stop clenching. You start breathing. Marcus didn't teach us to love everyone blindly. He taught us to recognize the role they play. Some challenge you. Some teach you patience. Some just remind you how far you've come. That's the beauty of acceptance. It isn't weakness. It's wisdom in motion. Because when you truly accept someone, flaws and all, you're no longer owned by their behavior. You stay grounded. You stay clear. You stay you. Now let's be clear. Acceptance is not about being a doormat. It's not letting injustice slide. It's choosing your battles with purpose. Because not everything is worth your peace. Not every offense deserves a response. And not every person needs to understand you. That's not cynicism. That's clarity. Imagine walking through the day with less friction, less resistance. Not because people got better, but because you stopped fighting the wind. That's what Stoic acceptance feels like. Not soft, not passive, just unshaken. You will still feel frustration. You will still feel hurt. But you'll learn to pause and protect your center. And in doing that, you give others a strange kind of gift. The freedom to be who they are. And the freedom for you to stay at peace anyway. Most of us don't lose our lives all at once. We lose them in fragments. 10 minutes to a scroll, a full hour to a conversation we didn't want, a whole day doing things that didn't matter. And then we look up. A year's gone. The Stoics knew something we keep forgetting. You don't get to spend your attention twice. Once it's gone, it's gone. And what you gave it to shapes who you are becoming. Marcus Aurelius lived at the center of the world's noise, war, politics, power, and still. He found time to ask himself, is this essential? Not, do I like it? Not, does it impress others? Just, is it worth my life force? Because that's what attention is. It's your life, in motion, drifting toward whatever is loudest, unless you stop and choose. We like to say we're busy, but deep down, we know we're often just distracted, worn thin by 100 little yeses to things we never really wanted. So what would it look like to focus fiercely, not occasionally, not when convenient, but fiercely, like your peace depended on it? Maybe it starts with noticing. Noticing what drains you. Noticing what feeds you. Noticing the way your body tenses when you open that app, or take that call, or say yes when your whole being whispered no. You won't fix it overnight, but you can stop pretending that noise is harmless. It's not. Every distraction has a cost, and every moment of deep focus, a return on that investment. So close the extra tab. Look someone in the eye. Write something with your whole self. Sit in silence and actually hear your own breath. Give something your full attention, and watch how it gives you back to yourself. The world will keep pulling. But you don't have to keep saying yes. Focus isn't about discipline. It's about remembering what truly matters before it's too late. It starts with a sigh, a groan, a roll of the eyes. You didn't ask for this delay, this noise, this person, this mess. So you complain, out loud or just in your head. It feels small, harmless, but over time it becomes a rhythm, a habit, a lens that makes the world feel heavier than it is. The Stoics knew that complaint isn't just noise, it's energy, misplaced, energy that could have become something else, perspective, action, peace. Marcus Aurelius once asked, "What is it in this situation that is still within my control?" That question has power because it interrupts the pattern. You can't control traffic. You can't control someone else's tone. You can't undo the flat tire, the rude message, the extra work dropped on your lap. But you can decide what story you tell yourself about it. You can choose whether this moment becomes another entry in your mental list of injustices or a doorway into resilience. Imagine this. You're late. Again. Everything's gone sideways, and right in that frustration you remember, this is the moment. This is the training ground, not the retreat, not the podcast, not the big turning point. This mess is where your character gets shaped. What if we stopped waiting for the world to cooperate before we practiced strength? What if the very things we complain about were the weights that made us stronger? You don't have to enjoy the struggle, but you can learn to meet it differently. Instead of saying, "Why now?" Try, "What now?" Instead of, "I can't believe this," try, "Let me see what I can still do." This isn't about forced positivity. It's about functional mindset. You're not denying reality. You're navigating it. Yes, you'll slip. You'll still complain. We all do. But every time you catch yourself and redirect even one complaint into curiosity or clarity, you shift the entire direction of your day. That's the Stoic path. It doesn't erase obstacles. It teaches you to walk through them with your head high and your peace intact. It's easy to feel grateful when life is soft, when the coffee's warm, the sun hits just right, and nothing aches. But what about the days that don't feel like gifts? When you're tired of carrying so much for so long? When your kindness feels unnoticed? When it feels like the world takes more than it gives? That's when real gratitude begins. Not the sweet kind, but the grounding kind. The kind that says, even here, there's something worth honoring. A breath, a roof, a voice on the other end of the line. It doesn't erase the pain, but it reminds you, you're still alive. You still have today, and that's more than nothing. Marcus Aurelius understood this, that even in war, in sickness, in loneliness, there's still room for gratitude. Because gratitude isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about noticing what still is. And from that soil, virtue grows. Honesty, courage, kindness, discipline. These aren't lofty ideals carved in stone. They're lived, or not, in how you speak to the barista, how you treat your friend when they mess up, how you show up for yourself when no one's watching. Anyone can be kind when it's easy. Anyone can be honest when there's nothing to lose. But when your back's against the wall, that's when your virtues get tested. And that's when they mean something. You won't always pass that test. You'll raise your voice, you'll lie, you'll shrink. But virtue isn't about being perfect. It's about returning again and again to what matters most. And gratitude? It helps you remember. It pulls your gaze away from what's missing and back to what's already here. So here's a practice. Every morning, name one thing you're grateful for, and choose one virtue to carry through the day. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's truth. Maybe it's compassion, especially when you feel empty. And if you forget by noon, start again at 3. And if you forget again, start over tomorrow. Because this isn't a scorecard. It's a way of being, a slow shaping. One small, honest choice at a time. There's something humbling about realizing how little you know. It can feel overwhelming at first, even embarrassing. But then it becomes something else, liberating. Because once you let go of needing to have it all figured out, you start becoming someone who's actually growing. The Stoics didn't chase knowledge for status. They chased it because they understood. Life is always teaching, and most of us just aren't listening. We think learning stops after school, but it doesn't. Not really. You learn when your plans fall apart, when someone challenges your beliefs, when a book hits you in just the right sentence, when a stranger says something that lingers long after they've gone. Lifelong learning isn't about collecting facts. It's about staying soft where life tries to harden you. It's about being open to new ideas, to being wrong, to not needing to win every argument. It's about wonder, that rare feeling we had as kids, when everything was new and the world still had mystery in it. We lost some of that, but not all of it. Every day, life gives us invitations. A question we don't know the answer to. A moment we misunderstand. A tension we could explore instead of avoid. But here's the catch. Learning requires humility. And humility isn't glamorous. It means admitting, I don't know. I could be wrong. Teach me. And in a world obsessed with appearing certain, that takes real courage. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He saw himself not as an emperor with all the answers, but as a student of life, always observing, always reflecting, always asking deeper questions. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly learned something, not just consumed it, but let it change you? That's the kind of learning that stretches you, not always comfortable, but always alive. So stay curious. Pick up that book. Listen without preparing your reply. Say, I don't know, and mean it. Because the people growing the most aren't always the loudest. They're the ones quietly expanding from the inside out. Be one of them. Forgiveness sounds noble, until you actually have someone to forgive. The friend who betrayed your trust, the parent who couldn't protect you, the version of yourself that made the wrong choice. Again, it's easy to hold on to the story, to replay what they did, to stay angry because letting go feels like letting them off the hook. But here's the thing, no one tells you. When you refuse to forgive, you don't trap them. You trap yourself. It's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to fall. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy, not colder, not harder, but freer." Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to carry it forward on your back. It's the decision to stop bleeding from a wound that's already closed. And that includes the ones you gave yourself. Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one in the mirror. We hold ourselves to impossible standards. We replay our failures like a punishment loop. We think shame will make us better, but all it makes us is smaller. The Stoics weren't interested in perfection. They were interested in growth, and growth needs room. Room to fall, room to reflect, room to try again. So what does forgiveness actually look like? It's the breath you take before lashing out. It's the moment you unclench your jaw and let silence speak. It's the time you speak kindly to yourself after you mess up, instead of spiraling. You're not excusing the harm. You're just refusing to become it. And no, it doesn't happen overnight. Forgiveness is a slow walk. Some days you move an inch. Other days you sit on the ground and cry. That's okay. Because every step away from resentment is a step toward freedom, a step toward peace. You won't always feel ready, but one day you'll look up and realize you're no longer dragging that weight behind you. That's not forgetting. That's healing. Balance isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you return to again and again, like breath, like center. We drift because we're human, and life isn't still. It pulls, it pushes, it shakes. You get caught in a rush. You say yes too many times. You ignore the tired voice inside and keep going until something finally breaks. And when it does, you don't need to punish yourself. You don't need to throw everything away. You just need to come back, gently, not with force, but with care. Marcus Aurelius never claimed to be perfectly balanced. He was overwhelmed, exhausted, stretched thin by war, loss, and responsibility. But he kept returning to his center, through words, through silence, through stillness. He didn't control the chaos. He created peace within it. So how do we do the same? Not by doing more, not by fixing everything, but by listening. What is your body asking for? What is your soul starving from? What parts of you feel loud, and what parts have gone quiet? Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need solitude. Maybe you need joy, the kind that isn't productive, just real. Restoring balance starts with one honest check-in. Then, one kind adjustment. A canceled plan. A deep breath. A moment alone without guilt. A walk without a podcast. Balance is in the micro movements. Not dramatic changes, but tiny recalibrations that say, I still matter. And you do. Even on the messy days. Even when you snap. Even when your life feels like it's pulling you in 10 directions. You still deserve to come home to yourself. So return, not perfectly, but presently. Choose stillness when your mind screams movement. Choose breath when the world demands reaction. Choose kindness when you feel like breaking. Balance isn't a destination. It's a relationship with your body, your mind, your values. And like any relationship, you need not with judgment, but with grace. You've just walked through 10 habits, not of perfection, but of presence. Not of greatness in the eyes of others, but of quiet strength inside yourself. Each one, a small step. Each one, a way back to center. And maybe as you listened, you saw something in yourself. Something forgotten or waiting. A part of you that wants to live with more clarity, more depth, more calm. So here's the only question that matters now. Which habit will you return to, starting today, not to impress the world, but to remember who you are? If this journey stirred something in you, you're not alone. Comment below, subscribe, or share this with someone who's walking their own path. And as you go forward, may you meet the chaos, not with fear, but with a steady heart and a stoic compass in your hand.